Good evening, and welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't Africans, the think show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so called African American didn't find his way to America in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, the indigenous one. Where are, where are you? Where do you stand? And are you a repeat offender? Where are you? Where do you stand? And are you a repeat offender? Everyone is supposed to be examining themselves. That's all of our job. Each and every one of our jobs. We're supposed to make ourselves better. We're supposed to be the seed that was planted and starting to grow, and we got to start being a better plant. How we get to that threshold is to start using what we have. And we all have a brain. And your brain is supposed to be leading you for whatever you want to see. And in the shape of the world, what we see going on in the world, I don't think any of us would think this is the way it's supposed to be. So what do you do about it? Well, we're going to find out. Because where are you? Where do you stand? And are you a repeat offender? Because if you're just there, just watching it, you're just a bystander in the crowd. If you're going to be that way, if you're not going to be that way, you're going to have to change yourselves. You can't be that slave. My grandmama was a slave. I am. You're going to have to change your status, what you think you are, who you think you are, not by what somebody told you, but from what you are. Who are your people? What do they do? Where do they live? What lake did they live by? Did they live off the Mississippi River? St. Louis? Well, I mean, where were they from? You know? And the only way you can find that out if you look at yourself. Well, tonight we got a brother joining us. That's just going to get you to look at the way you think about yourself, your place in the world, where you fit in. Listen to what this brother has to say, because I mean, we just talking, we just verbalizing, grand verbalizer. What time is it? You remember that, Jay?
Yeah.
So listen, without any further ado, where are you? Where do you stand? And are you a repeat offender? Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Mr. Jay Smith.
Good evening, everybody. Gary, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. I would like to start off by reading something that I got about over a year ago. It was online from a site called Mystic Knowing. And I thought that if I read this, it would actually, um, it applies to why we've been seeing the things we see in the world in which we live. Um, I screenshot the text, but the screenshots were kind of compromised a little bit, so I might not have the good flow of the words which it came out, but I will read it anyway because the most valid points will still be intact. Okay, you still there, Jerry? Hello,
Yes, sir.
did you hear me? Sometimes the signal goes out on the phone. Let me know if it does, because
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
I'll have to repeat myself.
No, you're fine.
Okay, I'm going to start out. It says Illuminati steps of discipline. Understanding how a generational illuminist is trained may help one understand their strange reactions better. All infants and children raised in generational Illuminati families, which are close to a third of the world's population, experience the same programming worldwide. Steps of discipline programming is one of many trauma based programs the Illuminists use. After using fetal trauma programs, woodpecker grid cages, and abandonment programming called training, the parents implements on their children along with the trainers. The steps of discipline programming slash training is designed to train easy and fast disassociation and blind obedience, resulting in unconscious loyalty to their handlers, the local Illuminati family, and the worldwide network of these families. Step one is not to need. The toddler is around 2 years of age, is placed in a training room without any sensory stimulus with gray, white, or beige walls and is left alone for hours or all day. If the child begs the adult to stay or, or screams, the child is beaten and told periods of isolation will increase until they learn to stop being weak. The child is often found rocking itself or hugging itself in the corner, occasionally in a catonic state of fear. The trainer rescues the child by giving food, drink, and bonding. The predator magically becomes the child's savior and tells the child the family, meaning the Illuminist, told the trainer to rescue the child because only the family loves them. The adult child of this training learns to shut down messages from their own body. They are generally not consciously aware of their own hunger, stress, or need for rest their entire life. They do not trust their senses. They fear what they sense might get them into trouble and more pain or isolation. Second step is not to want. Similar to the first step and gets reinforced the next few years. An adult enters the room with a large pitcher of ice water and food. If the child asks for either, as the adult is eating or drinking in front of the child, he or she is severely punished for being weak and needy. The child needs to shut down awareness of their bodily needs. This is reinforced over and over again. The adult child and the child master telling lies and stealing what they want or need for the self, physically and emotionally. This training teaches and reinforces the belief that they are not worthy of being treated with compassion by the self or others. When someone tries to help or support them, their response is, I don't need any help. I am okay. I'd rather do it alone. They don't trust others at all. Immediate gratification is what the child or adult strives for. When there's an opportunity to binge on something, they do. When they can destroy something someone else might enjoy, they do. The conflict guilt, and confusion over their drive for survival. Sneaking, destroying, and stealing can create purging and or hoarding. And our leaders, most are Illuminati. It is stealing and hoarding others people's money, goods, and services they feel entitled to verbally, physically, or sexually abuse anyone they can when they can get away with it. The third step is not to wish. The child is placed in a room with their favorite toys or objects. A kind adult comes in the room to play with the child. They engage in fantasy play about the child's secrets, secret wishes, or dreams to develop trust in the lonely, isolated child. All luminous children are lonely and isolated. Later, when the child shares their dreams, hopes, and fantasies, they are severely punished for wishing. The adult destroys the child's favorite toys, kills small animals and pets, or any illusion of safety the child may have left. This step is repeated often with many variations. The adult child believe that the Illuminati family knows all of its thoughts and secrets. That keeps the child and the adult always fearful. They have learned the pain will stop when they please their trainers, handlers, and the hierarchy. Survival and pleasing is the goal in the luminous life instead of compassion, creating, and enjoyment. Feeling trapped and powerless, the victim, the slave, strives to please or take revenge, reinforcing the victim predator confused innocent cycle or feedback loop. The victim becomes the predator on the smaller and weaker they have power over. Fourth step is survival of the fittest, and it starts at age 2 years of age also to create perpetrator alternate personalities in the child's system. All cult members are expected to be good perpetrators. A trainer and two children of the same age are together in a training room. One child is severely beaten for long periods of time by the trainer. Then the child not beaten is told to hit the beaten child or they will be beaten. If the child refuses, it gets severely punished. If the child continues to refuse or cries or tries to hit the trainer instead, they continue to be beaten. This is repeated until the child finally complies and beats the other already beaten up child. The adult child is being trained to accept this abuse and unfair, irrational treatment and behavior as normal, healthy behavior and what the family wants. This reinforces the victim, predator, confused, innocent, dark cycle of survival of the fittest that has dominated the earth for the past 13,000 years. Fifth step is the code of silence. As a child becomes more verbal after a ritual or group gathering, they share what they experience. The family considers that as betrayal. They get severely beaten or tortured and caged, which facilitates the creation of new alters, new alternate personalities to deal with the child's many traumas. The child is being trained to guard and keep secret the memories of what was seen on the pain of death. Setups, role playing, and double binds go on endlessly to reinforce this lesson of secrecy. Bird beak is to sing or talk like a bird or report back. The word family is used to reinforce solidarity and don't talk or tell. The adult child learn that they are always being set up, tested, used, and abused by others. Nothing is fair or rational to them because they are always confused and taught not to think or question. The illuminist slave is always confused, the way any severely abused and traumatized child or person is. Traumatized people shut down their ability to process what is happening to them and their biology. The soul essence leaves the aura around the biology to move into a higher resonance, to be the objective observer and recorder of what goes on. The person's biology is in control and is not listening to the soul essence. The human's biology's consciousness disassociates and can't remember or put together the beginning, middle, and end of events in their life. There are only a lot of small pieces not connected to other pieces. There is no flow or pattern to what they remember, think, or feel because they have been trained to segment, compartmentalize everything, and not think. Sixth step is betrayal and twinning. Starts in infancy and is formalized at age 6 through 7 and continues into adulthood. The child is placed in situations where an adult who kindly rescues the child and gains its trust several times. After months or a year of bonding with the child, he or she will turn to the adult for help. The adult backs away, mocking the child and abusing it, betraying the child's trust once again. Twinning setups are creating twin bonds in children that are not twins. The child is allowed to play with and become close to another child in the family from the earliest childhood. At some point early on, the child is told that the other child is actually their twin and they were separated at birth. It is a great secret and they are not allowed to tell anyone. All Illuminati children are lonely and isolated and are overjoyed to have a friend to do everything with. Later, they will be forced to hurt each other. If one twin is considered expendable, its twin will kill him or her. When one twin refuses to kill, hit, or hurt the other, they will be brutalized by the trainer, and the refusing twin will be told that the child was hurt because of their refusal to comply with the trainer's wishes. The adult child has learned not to trust their family or anyone else for that matter. Bonding and trusting is dangerous and painful. Asking for help or trying to bond with others means getting set up and more pain and suffering. A lonely, fearful individual is easily controlled and triggered to do the bidding of leaders in families, groups, countries, religions, and all other bullies using strength or power to harm and intimidate. The luminous and all dark ones' resonance is fear. When you disassociate or distract yourself from your thoughts and feelings and acting on them, you allow another to choose for you. To break programming of any sort, you need to stay conscious and decide for yourself what you want to do. That's it, Carrie.
You know what, dude?
Yeah.
I think everybody knows what you're talking about. And so this is the reality of the system that we support, the system that we put our weight behind, the system that we just love. This is what they do to children. And all of us knows somebody's that have been through what he just talked about. That's normal procedure here in America. And all of us know it. And that's why I want to ask you, man, what did you mean about where are you? Where do you stand? And you know, are you a repeat offender? What do you mean by that? Saying, what you just read.
Well, the reason why I read what I read wasn't for shock value. The reason I read it was to um, really um, have people really see what kind of world you're really in. And the title for the broadcast, I put those words there because we all are supposed to be examining ourselves, but at the same time, realizing that we may be faced with the realization that this system, as it's devised by what I just described to you, is not something that you need to attach yourself to. Um, I tend to think, and this is just conjecture on my part, that we're not supposed to go through the endless cycles of death and reincarnational cycles, but we're supposed to basically ascend from here. And if anybody thinks that um, there's a place worse than this, well, I just read to you what's going on. And if that's true, what I just read to you, that's about a third of the world population. That's a lot of people. Okay. That's over a billion people. So when you look at the world leaders, now you can see why they treat you the way they do, because it was done to them. Substitute Illuminati with Satanists, and then you get a bigger picture. So that's why I read it. So what we're supposed to be doing is not coming back here, and we're supposed to reach a level where um, we operate with compassion, because there are people that are actually suffering here. And so while you're here, depending on where you are, is going to determine, whether you're building karmic debt or whether you're paying it. It's going to determine where you are on a conscious level in terms of how you treat other people, and regardless of what I just read to you. Um, what they say in the Bible, there's a section of the Bible that says the kingdom of God is from within. So when you really think about it, you have to be the change that you want to see, and you can't be so much concerned about what other people are actually doing. I think there's a section of the Bible that says, why do you concern yourself with the speck in your brother's eye and you got a plank in your own? So this is the reason why I'm saying this, because there are segments of that religious text that does have, um, I would say it's valid. You have to get your answers from within. The image of the person meditating is basically the means where you access your higher learning centers and your higher self. These people that actually where these things are actually happening to them, I have read some information a while ago. Excuse me a minute. Let me shut this down if I can. Uh, hmm. Can you hear me? You still hear me, Carrie?
I hear you fine.
All right. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So what I heard in the past, I was reading some material, and I heard it said that a person's soul can be yanked from them. But I've heard that, but I never knew how they were doing it until I came across this. And as you can see, it says that the soul essence leaves the aura and is just in observation mode, so to speak. And that's the reason why these people have these alternate personalities. And there are some people that I've actually seen that in, and I don't know if it's happened to them in this lifetime or in their past life. It's possible, because what happens with a person that has that type of programming, they don't know they don't remember the beginning or the middle of any event. Their memory is not really there where it needs to be. It's not, there's not a constant flow of memory in such a person. And there's quite a few people that are walking around like that.
Okay, so when you say past life, could you elaborate on that?
Well, as eternal beings, I'm saying past life because we all have a past life existence. It's pretty much been confirmed through research, like I've said in the last broadcast that we have had, about children having past life memories. That's been explored. And there are people in different fields in the medical, was it psychiatry or psychology, that have come across, you know, evidence and proof of that. So that's why I mentioned it. Now, in terms of the religions, I reference the Bible because that's the one that I know from reading it. And though I have my own suspicions about the material in the Bible, whether the characters are allegorical or not, there are some things in certain religious texts that do hold true, that you can kind of confirm for yourself, and others that you can't confirm. Well, you put it in the back of your mind, and you operate, and you find out later whatever you can. Anything that can't be proven, you just put it in another column somewhere. Don't put it in the column like you know something when you really don't. you know but the Bible's a plagiarized work, and it, alongside other religions, it can be scrutinized, you know that is subject to scrutiny. you know so that's why I mentioned all that. But there's something I wanted to touch on. Trying to remember what it is. Hold on, let me see if I wrote it down.
You say everybody supposed to be examining themselves. What do you mean by
Yeah,
that? Just
yeah. If you ever notice, if you notice that, one system that's very notorious for that when it comes to judgments and stuff is the legal system, right? They pretty much write people's history for them based on how that system's designed. Most of the time, it's setting you up and framing you, for petty things that have nothing to do with what they call law. And, you know, we're not supposed to be pointing fingers at each other in that kind of manner. What you do is you, you examine yourself, and if you feel that you can encourage somebody or mentor somebody, you do that, but you don't judge them, because we're not supposed to be doing that. You know, trying to look for this information I was thinking about. Um, Now, if there's only heaven and hell, and this isn't heaven, where are you? It's a good question. I mean,
nobody.
where's?
You'd say nobody want to answer that question, huh?
I mean, it is a rational question to ask, because you've always been, if you've been on the Christian religion, you were threatened with, you know, threats of hell if you didn't do a particular function, like accepting Jesus. But truth of the matter is, um, I would go as far as to suggest that you're already here. You just need to just correct yourself so that you can, you know, ascend to a higher level, which we all are supposed to do. When we come through here, there's a part in the Bible that says that you're in the world, but you're not of it. So when you see when it says world, think of dimension, you know, the
Right.
dimension you're in, regardless of whether it's on the surface of the planet or below the surface, doesn't matter. You're in the same dimension, you know. Whether there are other types of beings, which I do hold to that notion that there are. I mean, there's a lot of evidence of that, and people have witnessed certain things. whether they're malevolent or whether they're benevolent. I mean, which one are you? Are you on the path of benevolency, or are you going down the path of malevolence that you see these families are doing when they torture them? See, that programming, that's how you create a monster. The monsters of our world is formed just like that, with all that torture and
I was
child
just
abuse.
I was just watching a documentary on how these people who call themselves kings and princes and all this other bullshit titles that people wear, how these people just go out and slaughter animals. And it's really it's disgusting. But we worship these people as they're something great, they're something wonderful. We bow down to them. That's crazy, dude.
Well, think about it. The world you're in, the lie is revered and the truth is kicked to the curb. Need I say it anymore? What I just read to you, uh, that's what you attribute. That type of treatment and activity, that's what you expect from a demon. If they could do that to children, you're nothing compared to what they do with the children. These are the monsters of our world. And of course, what I just read to you, they're supposed to be good perpetrators. So they'll play that good cop, bad cop role all day long. And they've been doing it. And most of us, you know, never knew what they really were, but now we're starting to see who they really are.
So since we're starting to see who they really are, what's the next move? Or do we shine a light on them more? Or what actions as people of the planet, as leaves on the tree, what action should we be taking to make sure this stuff doesn't affect our children and grandchildren?
Well, you have to take your own personal power back, and you have to stand up against it and don't follow the protocols when you know you don't have to. That's what we should all should be doing, but not everybody's doing that. But you don't worry about the majority. Even if the majority is doing it, doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you need to follow. Like my parents told me, do not run with the wolf pack, and don't trust strangers like the strangers we've been trusting for so long, not knowing who they were and what they were involved in. You know, I mean, you expect these people to behave, the monsters of our society or this world system? No, it's not going to happen.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to be able to change somebody unless they want to change. They have to be the ones to do it. But see, personally, the way we conduct ourselves, you still continue what you have to do and don't be like that. You don't have to be that way. I know I've already made my decision where I will stand,
Right.
and I'm very comfortable with it. And in spite of all the things and what I had just read to you, you know, that just makes me aware of the kind of world we live in. But at the same time, I know I don't have to live under that type of um those shackles that these are very well off people. They actually, you know, have before them the wealth of the world. But that doesn't change the fact that they live in fear. Doesn't change anything.
Right.
So now you know it ain't about wealth. That's not what makes you, you know, what you need to be on the higher end. They have that, and they'll offer it to you too. But you have to be willing to do the things that they do. Are you going to do that?
George Carlin once said, "It's a small club and you ain't it."
That's true.
And that's true. Well, Mr. Smith, is there anything else you want to share with the crowd before you bounce?
Well, this is what I want to say. Um, I'm on a journey myself, so I'm not here to, tell people what to do. But when you're seeking for answers to a higher calling, one thing I found out, when you're sincere about it, it comes your way. It really does. If your heart is sincere and you're honest about it, any answer you want is going to come your way. I mean, who would have known if I was not looking for, you know, something, it wouldn't come my way. But if I'm looking for something, it comes your way. Whether it comes to your health or, you know, enlightenment or, you know, a moment of peace, you'll find it as long as your intent is proper and correct, and you don't have, you know, notions, in terms of your thought life. There's a section in the Bible that says, whatsoever pure, whatsoever a good report, think on those things. If the television is bothering you, you know what I said about the television. Euthanize that thing, because it doesn't do you any good to be listening to all that negativity coming from that broadcast. That medium does you no good whatsoever. You're not going to miss anything if you euthanize it. I did it over 10 years ago. You still there, Kerry?
There's a question from the chat that asks, why do we dream?
I've heard it said that we do a lot of dreaming, and when we're sleeping, we're doing certain things that we're not even aware of at the time, and some of us are aware. Sometimes the dreams have meaning to it, relating to maybe upcoming events or things in your past life. It could be any of the above. Um, like I was telling someone before, meditation is a conscious sleep, and sleep is an unconscious meditation. That's how it was explained to me.
So there really is like a duality in everything. I mean, if you're down, you're gonna be looking up. And if you up, you're gonna be looking down. It's like, you know,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like if you're inhaling, you're not exhaling, and vice versa. So it's a duality in everything we do. And just what I'm seeing, I don't think we're living by that rhythm, there it's a rhythm. When you blink your eyes, there's a rhythm to that. When you breathe, inhale, exhale, there's a rhythm to that. And I just and what I'm seeing, I mean, especially as a group of people, as a nation of people, doing all of that shit on the same key. Can you imagine? And I think we know that power, but we refuse to use it for some reason, or we refuse to delve into that. Why do you think that is?
because the influences that actually exist around us, distractions, the religions themselves, your education, the schooling you've had, a lot of things you're not taught that you should be taught, you know. But as you're mentioning that, I was thinking about this brother that was doing the supposedly this brother has not eaten in 4 years. Now, that brother there is called a breatharian. But the 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 chick, the woman that was interviewing him asked him, "What do you actually take then if you're just a breatharian?" This guy is always in a meditative state, and the thing that came out of his mouth, one of the things that I had been exploring, I suspected such an individual had to have been doing that. The individual had actually said coconut water he drinks. He says he don't drink water too often, but he says he drinks his own urine. And she asked him, he says, "Do you actually like that?" And he basically told her, says, "I like the results." He says, "Does that mean you have to do it?" He says, "You don't have to do it, but yeah, you do it, but you don't have to." In other words, his answer was not in a way to impose, and he answered it correctly. But he does that now. I would tend to think an individual like that, their genetics is probably lining up to where he needs to be. And if he's in a meditative state, I wouldn't be surprised that he's in contact with higher intelligences as he's doing that. Higher intelligences that you wouldn't always actually that are actually part of you. Actually, you're part of you all the way to source. Your higher self. He may be able to, if he stays on that path, he may be able to transfigure the body into the higher dimensions. That's just conjecture on my part. 'Cause I've heard of stories like that. That individual is on that path, but that's not for everybody. But that's what he's doing. He's not the only one, though. Few indeed, but yes, that's what he was doing. And
I once heard there was a biblical mention to that urine, the waters or whatever. What do you know about that?
it's mentioned 100 or 241 times in the Bible, participating in your living waters. I've heard it said that an individual that has been fasting, he's been using the urine while he was fasting. Like I said, those mine shaft workers, they were down there in the dark in a mine shaft collapse for 2 months and 10 days. They survived by drinking their own urine. They walked out on their own power. There's stem cells in there. There's your own hormones, your own essence, your energies. Everything is in there. Okay, that's the reason why those guys were able to survive. They're proof of that. Even though they try to change the narrative, it seems like they don't want people to know that information. But like I said before, they are using it anyway in products that you're buying. So you are using someone else's urine, whether you like it or not. If you buy any of these products, or if you get treated with the medical substances that they give you, you know. I mean, stem cells are rejuvenated cells. But in the case of the person fasting, what they told me that when they recycled it, it said it actually started to clear up and become more and more almost like water. But it it's actually you recycling your essences by doing that. That's what I've come to the conclusion, considering how the universe really expresses itself. It really does express itself in cyclonic patterns. It really does. So it does make sense. Um, there was another question I think you asked, right? Did I answer that question?
If it was, I've forgotten it.
Okay, that's
No,
okay.
but just by what you just said about your recycling your own essences. I
You're not
mean,
getting it from another life form. You're
you
getting
said
it from yourself.
right. And I think how we're trained to look at ourselves makes it yucky. You know, we're trained to look at that as, and you don't know what they sending back through the pipes, that coming through the city municipal tap water. You don't even know what that is. They say they treating it, but really, A lot of
Well,
these places aren't like Flint, Michigan. You know
look
what
at it this way. Look at it this way. Let's say you eat meat. You're eating the flesh of another being. That's that's you know actually not part of your system. All right. Um, like I said before, your body has its own signature or identifier. You cannot actually get an organ transplant from someone else without a reaction where the body wants to recognize it as an intruder and tries to destroy it. So they got to put inhibitors in you for you to, you know, use this organ that you got from someone. Well, you know what? There's a possibility it's the same way with when you eat. There's a toxicity level to what you eat anyway. And depending on your blood type, even more so depending on which foods you're eating. And there's a reason for that. Just same way with blood transfusions. I've heard people say that when a person gets an organ transplant or they get these transfusions, sometimes they get the actual memories and dreams of the person they got the organ from.
I can see that. I can see that, dude. I can actually see that. Because it's like you said, everybody has a seal. I know a lot of us don't look at ourselves as much, but everybody has a signature. Everybody has a say. That's more my motto is what you say. Forget what everybody else say. I mean, you think of stuff, you see stuff just the way everybody else sees it. I would like to get your words, sir. How you seeing it?
You tell me why a starfish, you cut a starfish's extremity, it'll grow another one, or a salamander. You tell me why that can only apply to such creatures. Why can't that apply to you? And from what I'm hearing, one brother even said it that somebody was able to do that with a tip of their finger they cut off by accident. They took their own urine and they wrapped that for a while and they grew it back. So you tell me what actually is going on there. Well, stem cells, right? Stem cells could turn into any cell that's that the body's composed of, correct? I mean, doesn't it make sense? I mean, does that sound like out of the realm of possibility? I would say not.
You're right.
Why
See,
should just a life form like that be able to do that? You should be able to do the same thing. It's just we're doing something wrong. That's why we don't live as long.
so what are some of the things we're doing wrong? Why we don't live as long?
We're taking in things that doesn't belong in our body. The body is defiled. How's a defiled body going to function properly? It wouldn't be able to do that. Maybe eating other creatures was not. You actually think all these life forms exist for the purpose of you eating them? I don't think so. I don't think I'm wrong about that. I'm talking from the perspective of the sanctity of all life. You know,
Right. If
that's
your
all I'm
life,
talking from.
yeah, you're right, dude. If your life is important, why shouldn't anything or anybody else's be?
I mean, think about it. You got no wonder you got an agency or administration called the Food and Drug Administration. You try. I mean, it's like a drug. I was listening to this doctor being interviewed by someone. He actually said sugar was poison, and the way he said it. Now you're not thinking that because you've been introduced sugar since you were a little child. You're not looking at it at it as being poison. And food itself. Try to do a fast and see what happens. You're like a crackhead. You get withdrawals.
You ain't
The
lying about
craving is, huh?
you ain't lying about that. You right, dude. Cause
Even
it's
though the fasting will do you good, you're still craving, and you're acting like you can't go not even a day without food. Never mind weeks on end.
yeah, it takes another it takes another level of something, thinking, dedication, whatever you want to call it. It takes that because it is a drug. I think I see it. The food's a drug, man.
That's why they're coupled together, Food and Drug Administration. That's why it's coupled together. There's a reason for that. It's one and the same.
So what advice would you give to the listeners in the chat about the ongoings with the food that is being served now?
They're getting ready to force a famine type scenario. You already know that. Probably, I'm sure you've heard, stories of crops being destroyed. All these things are arranged, uh, you know. But for me, um, I'm I'm not talking for everybody else. I have to speak for myself. Um, I will admit, when I did fast, and that was years ago, it was very difficult. I ain't gonna lie. But if it comes down to something like that, and I have to do that, if it's forced on me, uh, I think I'll be fine. I'll be okay. You know. And when it comes to urine therapy, I'm not gonna even worry about it then, considering how that. Um, if that brother's been abstaining for 4 years like that, and he ain't the only one, I guess we're all gonna be able to do something like that if we so desire. But I'll tell you what, if they push something like that, people are going to go nuts. Famine? Just for one, maybe 2, 3 days? Can you imagine, Kerry?
Yeah, dude, I see it now, man. I see how they, how much money and time and how they try to make the food look, and the food is like, what does it mean made from plants? That's such a vague concept, when they say
Mm.
the meat is plant based. What is, huh? The concept is so vague. What kind of plant? They don't tell you the kind of plant or anything, you know?
Look, when the present authorities say that a cop could lie, a federal agent can lie, right? When they're talking like that, um, that means in everything. So you can't rely on labels and an assumption that what you're eating is not going to contain something. They're already talking about interference RNA in the foods now, not just GMO. Interference RNA that's supposedly supposed to kill an insect if it tries to, you know, ingest whatever it is that they're growing.
So your message to the mat, your 2 cents, you throwing your 2 cents into the hat, you would say what?
Well, if you feel you can't bear the notion of going without eating, you better learn about wild edibles or something, or grow your own if you can get the proper seeds.
Is everybody listening?
Learning what's in the wild is not difficult. There's a lot of information out on that. You know, you've been walking on things that you could have eaten, you walked by it, walked on it, and didn't even know it. Like
That's
dandelion, sheep sorrel, longleaf plantain, chickweed, which they say tastes like corn, things like that.
That, like you say, we walk right over and don't even know what it is.
Yeah, because they always tell you to destroy the damn thing. You're told to destroy it to have a beautiful lawn.
A beautiful box.
We're conditioned to doing things like that, you know.
Right,
One guy even said, if you know the poison lookalikes, if you know all of them, you have a whole world of things that you can actually eat
right.
once you know the poison lookalikes. That's one naturalist that actually said. Because there are poison lookalikes out there.
So give us a tip. How do poison lookalikes look?
Well, I can't go from memory, but if you get a book on it, there are certain things that look um like the one that you would normally eat, but it's not. There are identifiers on them. I don't remember the names. I haven't looked at the book in so long. I have a book on it because I out with a well-known naturalist, and he showed different things just in the parks around here. You know,
So, you understand, we got to thank those brothers. Thank those brothers who are in these urban communities growing food and showing people how to grow food that didn't know how to grow food before. Hats off to those brothers and sisters because, like Jay was saying earlier, it's stuff that you just walk on over that gives you all the vitamins and nutrients that you need. And
let me
shouldn't
tell
we
you
know
something.
those?
Let me tell you something about vitamins, right? I think I think they pull a fast one on us for the longest of time because when you look at some of the things that's in the markets and the book I have that's about the wild edibles, there ain't much difference in the green leafy vegetables and which vitamins they contain. They all contain basically the same thing, with the exception of certain trace minerals, depending on the plant. They're basically the same. Now, what's interesting, um, and I did discuss this with you, I remember many years ago, there was somebody on a radio broadcast. He actually said that our bodies made its own vitamin C at one time. Now I'm thinking to myself now, after remembering hearing that, what is it that we're doing that's making us not, if what he's saying is true, not make the vitamin C that we supposedly need? So I'm starting to think that maybe the vitamins that we're thinking about are from our own essence, but because we're doing something that maybe we weren't meant to do, it shuts that down. You know, when we can make it ourselves, it's part of what your body contains already.
Well, that's a different way of looking at things, brothers, and I can see it, you know, and I think that's why we're giving terms of how we refer to ourselves. You know, it's like you're not worthy. You can't do this. You can't produce this. When we look outside of ourselves, we're seeing that what we have is being used for the rest of the world to enrich in themselves.
There's a lot of suppression of the truth here, Carrie. I don't care what subject it is. There's a
Yep,
lot of suppression of the truth
you're
in
absolutely right.
this dimension. I don't care if it's an inventor that invents something that makes people self-sufficient. They're going to suppress him. The monsters or devils of this world will stop that inventor. Or if it's somebody that's going to try to, make you self-sufficient in terms of your health, they'll stop that person too. So I've noticed that, the kind of world what we're seeing is not what you imagine it to be, but it is what it is. And you see this more and more. Now they're getting ready to act out even more because see, there's things coming down the pike. I don't know what it is, but they're acting very strange. I hear cops are running around, uh, stepping up their piracy. You know,
Right.
so they're creating pretexts for you know um conflicts and things like that. And I just basically look at it, and all I could do is just scoff at it.
Yeah, I hear you. I see the same things, brother. I see the same things. And it's really old now. And luckily I think some of the younger people, you know, they're looking at things a lot different than I was when I was their age. So I think things are being shared and things are being passed. And I think it's time for that civil rights movement and the children of those parents of the civil rights movement. What's next? I think that's got to be passed down, because we can't pass down what's been passed down to us, because it don't work. And these children are looking for more, and they deserve more from the ones that have come before them. So I want to say thank you for sharing with us tonight, and thank you for giving us your views, because a lot of times we need another perspective from how the narrative that we're always getting, what we're told to think, what we're told to believe. And I think you bring a fresh new idea to the mix. So thank you for joining us tonight.
My pleasure, Kerry.
Cool. So I want to thank the audience for sitting in with us. I know it's Saturday night. I know the juke joint was jumping. Hey, but it's still early. You can make it. No, I'm kidding. I want to thank you guys for joining us, really. And I really wish your weekend to be a great one. We'll see you next time. We'll see you soon. Everybody, peace out.
Good night.